And welcome to the first hour of Patriot's Lament right here on KFAR. We call it the Saturday morning wake-up call. If you are not awake yet, after the next 15 or 20 minutes, you will be, because your blood pressure is going to rise. Your eyes will start to bleed. Your ears will be ringing. That's if you're a statist. If you're a lover of liberty, you might find yourself absolutely invigorated this morning. I'm Steve Floyd, the monkey behind the machine. I am here to make sure that the message does not get stopped. Join me in the studio this morning, as always. From Bighorn Enterprises, we have Josh Bennett.
Wow.
And from the Once and Future Far North Tactical, we have Aaron Bennett in here. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, Steve.
Once and Future. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, I was thinking along the lines of King Arthur and the whole sword and the stone. At some point, somebody's going to yank that sword out. I'm looking forward to it. And joining us, we have another mystery guest here in the studio today. Say hello, mystery guest.
Good morning. Hello.
All right, there we go. It's,
What was that?
I believe it's a foreigner. We've got some kind of a non-American.
Call INS.
He's not brown, so don't come down here.
Oh, it's right.
Yeah, don't be throwing any drone missiles this way just because
The INF doesn't only come after brown people. They come after anybody who doesn't have their proper papers.
Did we check them yet?
You got your papers?
Green card?
I do.
Nice.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. All right.
Glenn Beck was talking about that today. Did you come through the front door?
I believe he came through the French Foreign Legion, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh. That's right. We got a Merc here in the studio with us today.
Wow. Protection.
It's a big grin on Claudio's face. Claudio Gomez, welcome to the program today. All right, Josh, take it away. Where are we going this morning? My seatbelt is firmly buckled. I'm ready.
I'm not wearing one.
Oh, you are such a rebel.
I was going to, I guess, bring up, it's been a week now, but still something that deserves talking about, I think. This Melissa Harris Perry. She's someone with MSNBC. She's a commie. And so in a promo for MSNBC, she gives her little talk for her show or whatever, and she says we need to break out of this idea that children belong, private idea that children belong to their parents. We need to break out of that and understand that children don't belong to their parents, but they actually belong to the whole community. And if we would understand that the children belong to the whole community, then we would properly fund things like education or whatever. We would properly give, spend, whatever, invest in our children if we would just understand that they don't belong to their parents, that they belong to the community. And I got just somewhat, little bit of small, big problem with someone like that. Because it's pretty prevalent in this socialist, more prevalent, I think, every day here in the socialist states of America, where we have this collective thought about everything. There's no rights. It's just everything is collectively owned, collective rights, collective shared, collective owe, collective pay, collective, everything's collective. Children really, when they say something like that, they're not even saying that children have rights. They're the state's property, which I think goes back to
Plato.
If they weren't the state's property, how could the state relinquish you of your kids?
Right.
It's actually, this is a thought that goes all the way back to Plato, the Greek philosopher, in his book Utopia. He talks about having the children not being raised by a mother or a father, but by the collective community as a whole. It takes a village.
Oh, it does.
So to speak. That little saying that Hillary Clinton was quoting, she was actually quoting...
It was a book.
A version of Plato. Plato, in his Utopia, talked about having children not being raised by their parents, because that might lead to attachments and loyalties that conflict with the loyalties to the state. He advised having the children being raised in a group by someone who is not necessarily their parent, might be, might not be, probably not, having basically that you don't even know which child is yours as you share the duties of raising the children for the community.
Right, and it goes back to the loyalty part to teach the child loyalty to the state, not to his children. If you think about when Aaron said, well, if they don't belong to the state, how could they take them or whatever? Well, maybe they do belong to the state. When people get married and they sign a contract with the state, they make the state a third party in their marriage, doesn't the state have a viable interest in that marriage and anything that's produced by that marriage?
And all of the money that they get, the benefits that they get for including the state in their marriage.
Right. Because you get tax exemptions, you get this and that if you're married with a license. So you have a third party. So maybe she's right. Maybe I just need to go home.
But
maybe the children do belong to the state. This lady, though, is a nut job. She's actually a real communist, like for real life. Some of the stuff I've read and heard about her, she believes ultimately in the state. Like even she doesn't think you should be able to protest against people that are elected to office because they are part of the state. She's a teacher in a college, and she teaches, the first thing she tries to teach is fealty to the state. So I guess that's a lot easier if you own the children to teach them fealty to the state. But I'm not really into that at all. So whatever the heck. What was her name again? Melissa Harris Petty?
Is she your douchebag of the week?
Come and take them.
I was about to tell you to make sure you get closer to the mic, but after you said, I'm not sure we want that on the mic this morning, Aaron.
I said, does she get the douchebag of the week award?
You have to narrow it down.
Probably like the year.
Really? That
Even
high?
though now somebody will beat it. So yeah, the week. We'll just keep it.
It's only April.
I was thinking about Steve's comment there that it takes a whole village, and I don't know. I was just sitting there thinking about it, and people call it and obviously argue the case for the state, which is really funny. A lot of people want to argue for the state, but anyway, people call in and argue the case for the state, and that it's necessary to have that monopoly on the use of force, because if we didn't, we'd obviously have chaos and anarchy and so on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you always want to throw anarchy in with the word chaos. That way nobody's confused about what it really means. Absence of the state, anarchy,
What would we do without
equals
it?
chaos. So people advocate, well, you have to have that monopoly on the use of force. If you don't, look at all the bad things that'll happen. But if you just take me and you, Josh and Aaron, no one would agree that I needed to have the monopoly on the use of force and be the arbitrator in my own disputes. That would obviously be ridiculous in that situation. If it was just me and Josh in the world, how ridiculous would it be if I said, okay, we're going to form ourselves a little government, Josh, and any dispute we have, I'm going to be the decider in the dispute. And I get the monopoly on violence. You're not allowed to defend yourself or do anything violent to me.
Dang it.
Anybody would see that as ridiculous. And if I said, well, if there was 10 of us and I tried to make the same claim, we would all think that's ridiculous, because we see 10 people, 20 people, 30 people interacting everywhere we go. We know that that's viable, that people can interact together.
What if 6 people decided you should be, though?
See, now that's where we get somewhere. If somebody comes to you and says, Aaron, will you please make the decisions for the rest of us?
Even though 3 may not, 6 want you.
No, but that's not really the point I'm driving at. Is we, as individuals, we see that would be ridiculous. That even if there was like 20 of us and we all went out in the woods together, right? And we were going to make our own little commune, like do what Hillbilly does, and 20 of us got together, we're going to go out there and make our commune. Once we got out there, Josh proposed to us, okay, I'm going to have the monopoly on force, and I'm going to be the arbitrator in everybody's disputes, including my own.
Well, you should be okay with that.
Everybody would just laugh him out of town, because we all know that that's not required for the interaction of 20 people. And if we really start thinking about it, we know it's not required for 100 people. So at what village size does it have to get for us to start thinking that there has to be a monopoly on the arbitration of law and the use of force. So it basically has to come to the point where it's anonymous, really. There has to be that many people.
If it starts with 20, it'll eventually be 300 million.
It doesn't go back to what you were saying at the very beginning of the show, though, Josh. I'm not sure it starts with people asking for an arbitration or the use of force. I think what they start with is, I want something that I don't want to pay for. I want something here that I don't want to go out and pay for myself. I want my neighbors to pay for it.
Most of the time, it actually starts religiously.
And it can't,
I want this person to conform to my religious view.
it can't start with, I want someone to do something for nothing, because you have to have the monopoly there first. Jefferson talked about that. Once the people realized they could pick the pot, we're doomed. So you had to have the start of the monopoly. And then later on, once people realized they could vote for that free lunch, then we're toast, which is where we are today and have been for quite a while. We have the free lunch. So we have people can get up and say, which is fine that they think it. It's fine that they can say it. But when they start moving on it with the collective, we just need to move out of this idea that parents own their children, and we've got to move forward. We've got to lean forward and decide that we have
I'm not sure
the collective to the community. It's always
you
for the
haven't,
good
you
of the
haven't
children.
convinced me on that one, Josh, because you think about it, it's not so much even a matter of voting themselves a free lunch. It's the issue of things like roads or sidewalks. I mean, this is the argument you hear from very good
Who's
people.
going to produce the roads, Steve?
Well, that's the whole thing, is that if we didn't have government, where would we get roads from?
Right.
If we didn't have government, where would we get our sewers from? I mean, you have these...
That's where we are now,
Wait,
but I mean,
wait,
it didn't start that.
Can I rephrase it before you go off there,
Are you
Josh?
serious?
It's not if we didn't have government. What they're really saying is if we didn't have a monopoly, an entity with a monopoly on the use of force and the arbitration of law, including in their own disputes, where would we get roads? If we didn't have one entity that could beat up everybody else,
And take their money.
if we
Yeah,
didn't
it
have
goes
an
back to the
entity that could
taxation.
hit you on the head and then charge you for giving you that wonderful service, where would we get roads?
No, it's more than that. If you don't have an entity that can kill you, nothing will get done. If there's no entity that claims to own your life and kill you, then we won't have roads. We won't have sewer. We won't have anything unless there's an entity that claims the right to shoot you in the head.
Oh, on a side note, did you know that in Anchorage now it is a capital offense to be drunk? Did you hear about the guy that they shot and killed because he was asleep in his car drunk?
Yeah.
Just on a side note, I mean, just in case anybody's wondering about us talking about going and shooting
Capital
you
offense to be what?
drunk. They got down there at the Cars store in the Fairview neighborhood of Anchorage. The manager of the Safeway went out and found somebody asleep in his car. Couldn't wake him up. It's like, this guy's drunk in my parking lot. Went and called the police. Police came, saw that the guy had a gun, shot him dead. Aaron is looking around with a look on his face like, that's not possible. Police are here to protect and service. They're not going to arbitrarily start shooting citizens.
Yeah, they're here to protect and serve the crap out of you.
It just blows my mind that people will take this idea that roads wouldn't get built, and we have to have roads, so let's have people get shot.
If those cops didn't shoot that guy. Randy's going to call in any minute and say, well, while I see that sometimes you need someone like that to get shot, and it's not very nice, we still need them there to get shot, and what would we do if we didn't get shot?
That's basically his whole argument. I'm going to have to give you that one.
Wow.
Yeah, well, even though it is unfortunate that somebody got shot, we need people to get shot. Claudio, take it away. We're leaving.
At least I can't call after Randy today. The idea that people without the government, let's say everybody's buying Fred Meyers. If some government don't exist, everybody's going to start to loot Fred Meyer. I don't think so, because people don't steal the stuff there. It's not because the government exists, but people don't steal stuff there because they know that's wrong, and they will need that supermarket later on.
Exactly.
To go away.
Exactly. That's right on the money. Because if the people did loot Fred Meyers, if Fairbanks decided, yeah, and you raid the store shelves, guess what? They won't be full again.
No, Fred Meyer won't be putting the stuff on the
Yeah,
shelf.
they'll be like, eh. No, Walmart might do double business, but Fred Meyer's will stop.
Well, and
So-
if there's a recurring problem with Fred Meyer getting looted, I mean, they might decide on their own to hire somebody like Aaron to come in and stand guard to make sure that somebody doesn't loot their store.
Speaking of supermarkets, nobody wants there to be just a Walmart, right? We want a Walmart, Fred Meyer's, so on and so forth. So how could, and everyone, all philosophers and economists agree that monopolies are bad. So why do they give the state a pass?
Well, Krugman doesn't think so.
Well, and the state is the one that's responsible for any monopoly ever. If you ever think about when a monopoly comes about, I mean, even the state of Alaska, just with the passage of that pipeline bill a couple of years ago, created a monopoly with TransCanada.
Yep. Which would have been sweet if I would have got a contract with them. But otherwise than that, it's pretty dumb. You got to it's all back to this collective. The people that want this thing, they're usually the people that get to wield a little bit of that power. And they're usually the people that want to see some of that power used against someone. Instead of, regular Joe Blow, guy that just goes to work and whatever. He usually, in the back of his mind, he usually wants it to be not so much. The normal guy doesn't want so much regulation on his everyday life. He usually wants to keep as much of the money that he makes as he possibly can. And generally, he doesn't really want his neighbor's kids and have to take care of them himself because he's got his own kids and it's hard enough to do that.
Josh, that's why we advocate for limited government.
Oh, I forgot.
Where's Josh been all these years?
I'd like to limit
rock.
government down to about 0.
Can you limit it to minus 0? Let's take that.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
This is Jim and Kenai.
Hey,
Jim and
how
Kenai.
you doing?
Thanks for calling in.
Doing great. I think it's more basic than money. I think it comes down to there's something I want to do, but I know it would be wrong if I did it myself, or I might suffer consequences I don't want, like being shot for aggressing. But if I can convince enough people, then I'll be, like somebody else said, anonymous. So I can't be held individually responsible for doing it. So this can be expressed as I want to steal my neighbor's money in order to do something which benefits me and dress it up as it benefits everybody.
Isn't that what I said in the first place about the issue if it comes down to people wanting something that they don't want to pay for themselves?
But it's not just pay. It's also be accountable as a bad person for aggressing against my neighbor.
You could just blanket it by saying covet.
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, it really is
Thanks,
an issue
Moses.
of covetousness and resentment. And basically, in the case of the right, it comes down to I don't trust that God will punish my neighbor for his vices, so I have to do it.
Oh, snap.
man.
That was good, Jim.
Talk to you later.
Thanks for the call. We just had our lines pile up here,
That's
John.
perfect. And the recent example of the whole thing, I wasn't going to bring it up because I can't stand to talk about them, but the borough with the school budget the other night, the $47 million that they basically had a bunch of goons in there forcing, because they were the majority, we want $47 million. And, first, it's just an arbitrary number. And if you read what those people were saying about it, they were saying, well, we have to invest.
Most of them wanted more.
Oh, yeah. Well,
$47 million is just the starting point. That was last year's budget.
yeah, and if you look at it, you have to have more because the more we invest in our children, the better off they're going to be. So why was it only $47 million? It should have been 94. It should have been 110. It should have been $5 billion. Because if money makes our schools better, if money makes all things good, then why does everyone just needs to empty, the borough needs to boroughize everyone's bank account and just take them and give it to the children. Because the children are our future, and if we don't invest in our children...
Look, Josh, the money has been going up, the budget has been going up year after year after year in the school district, and you can see how much that's working. You can see how now we are up to, 95% graduation, right? Oh no, it's about 60. Wait a minute. Maybe the kids coming out on the other side of they're really really good in the basics like reading, math.
Yeah, luckily 40% of them are smart enough to get out.
No, actually they're not. I mean, yeah. Yeah. If it were a private business, if Fred Meyer
It would be toast.
think about anything. Would you go and buy a car from somebody who had a 60 or a 40% failure rate? You recognize it?
I don't know how much money I had.
If you take the car off the lot, there's a 40% chance it's going to fall apart before it even gets around the.
And
would you buy a car from a company like that?
You know what I think is exciting about this whole public school thing, though, is that to all you public school educators out there, love you, but you're going to disappear. Your guys' jobs are going to disappear because the market, which is all powerful, it's not God, but it is powerful. It's been around since the beginning. The market is going to market you out of a job. I mean, you're going to kick and scream and point the gun.
If that were true, then you'd be seeing the enrollment in the public school district going down, Josh.
But it is.
Oh, you're right.
When you have MIT posting their whole course, everything that they do is free online. You guys are going out of a job. When you have Ron Paul just came out with some curriculum here this last week for homeschoolers, you guys are out of a job. I think it's like $250. $250 for your child to learn everything he needs to know. These guys are spending what, $10,000 per child or more?
It's up to $12,000.
$12,000 per child, and what, probably $11,599 for administrative purposes.
No. Most of that goes to heat buildings and to pay the salaries of the people who clean the buildings.
Is it really?
If we don't have public school, who the heck is going to watch our kids?
There is a problem.
Snap. That is a problem.
I like that. All right, all of our lines they're all on hold, Josh. Would you like to take another call?
Take a call, Steve.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hey, this is Billy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good morning.
My goodness.
I want to propose even a more simple idea. I think that government is like gravity, and it just accumulates whenever man accumulates. And I think that Adam Smith said that about 200 people is about the maximum that you can have in a community, and everybody still know everybody. And anytime you've got a community where everybody knows everybody, you can look it up in history, anthropology, I don't care what culture you look at. In little towns that have less than 200 people, there's almost never any sheriff, there's almost never any policeman, there's never any judges or courts or gallows or anything like that, because everybody knows everybody. And if somebody does go haywire and starts, doing some really vile thing, well, one of their neighbors or two of their neighbors who happen to know about it drag them out in the street, tell the whole community about it, and they kill him. And that doesn't happen very often. Maybe, a couple of times in 100 years you have legends about it where they got so mad at somebody they killed him or they hung him or they did this or that. But generally speaking, Adam Smith said that if you just had smaller villages, you don't have the crime. And that's where government comes from, is when you get enough people together that they don't know each other, and then criminals come in, and then the people say, well, what can we do? We have to stop the crime. And so they institute kings and governments, and they say, you protect me and I'll pay you.
Well, Timothy, doesn't that kind of go against that whole idea of Agenda 21 of moving people into cities? I mean, you're basically advocating for people moving out into rural areas, and
I'm not advocating everybody do it because not everybody wants to. I think it's quite obvious in history that the vast majority of people do not want freedom; they want security, and so they band together for security, and they just love to have government. I think that's why you're beating your head against a stone wall to try to think that you're going to have all of the conveniences of Babylon without the ills of Babylon. You're going to have it, man. But those that want to have less government, those who want no government, well, should go live by themselves, pretty near, or with a small group of people that feel the same way. And I just maintain you're never going to change Babylon. You are never going to convert Babylon. We've never been told to convert Babylon. We've only been told to convert individuals and then tell them to flee Babylon. That's what we do to Babylon. So I'm just saying, if you really want out of the situation, give me a better answer than getting out of the situation. You know what I mean? There's never been a society that was successful in instituting the kind of values you want to see within a large city. There's never been a society that's ever done that.
Yeah. Probably true.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
No.
You know, if you want the village, you got to go back to the village. You cannot create a huge village because once people don't know each other, then there's going to be crime and corruption and evil of every kind. And it comes down to wanting that convenience of the town. You know, I don't want to crap in a bucket, so I'll live in town. You know what I mean?
That's about it, yeah.
What we need to do is to get smaller groups of people that can have civilization out in the wilderness. I'll see you later.
Thanks for the call, Timothy. All right, you got it on Patriots Lament right here on KFAR, local talk radio. All right, welcome back to the first hour of Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. We call it the Saturday morning wake-up call. Joining us in the studio, as always, we've got Josh and Aaron Bennett, and we also have a special guest here today in the studio, Claudio Gomez, former member of the French Foreign Legion, tile layer, and general troublemaker. Am I right? All right. Hey, I just wanted to give you a good write-up there, Josh.
Foreigner.
Josh, where do we go from here? Or Aaron, where do we go from here? I mean, we've been talking about...
Were you really in the French Foreign Legion?
I was there just for a selection. I was going to sign a contract on the next day and decided to quit before I signed 5 years contract to go to war for them.
Man, you could be in Mali right now.
Where?
Mali.
Mali. In Africa.
Killing people.
Or getting killed.
Or, yeah, which is obviously more fun. We got full lines. You want to hit them?
Yeah.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Who's this?
Yes, Winston.
Hey, Winston, what's on your mind?
I want to give you a little piece of information out of the Muckluck News from Toke. There's a teenager by the name of Madeline Hope Clark, and she's got a nationwide release of her new book. I understand it's historical fiction, and it's called Liberty's Daring Mission. And in the article here, they say that Clark is from Delta Junction, Alaska, a homeschooled high school student with an avid interest in American history. She wrote this story about liberty to instill a sense of patriotism. To my way of thinking, any teenager that can get that can go through a publisher and get a book published, that's better than any high school graduation certificate that the state can give out to anybody, because she has met the market. The competition, the state just cannot compete unless they use force. And so let them go. Let the kids have it.
Thanks for that, Winston.
All right, you're welcome.
That's right on the money, Winston.
No, a few of us, I mean, you think about it. Do you remember back when you were in school, Josh, Aaron, Claudio?
I didn't go to school.
All right, you were homeschooled, right? I was public schooled. Claudio, what did you have? What kind of school did you have?
I got a public school at night and work at the day, but I didn't learn much there.
Well, I think about all the crap I learned in high school. You know, it's a wonder I can think at all. That's Paul Simon.
Kodachrome.
That's right. Before we go down that road, though, you think about even what you achieve in high school or college or anything else. Does that make a difference in your life, or isn't it what you accomplish afterwards?
I think that Winston had it just right. You have to meet the market.
Yeah.
And the market will solve those problems anyway. If you're trying to meet the needs of people that need a lawyer or something of that nature, well, what are you going to go and do? You're going to go pass the bar exam. You go to school and you do a bunch of undergraduate studies, and then you have to figure out what your major is going to be. Most people major in something because they can't think of what it is that they want to be. Why are we having all these kids go major in things before they even figure out what the market wants them to be? I mean, I have so many friends that majored in something, and I'm like, well, why did you pick that? And they're like, well, I don't know. And people don't even know why they're picking the things that they're picking. But if they would get out into the market and figure out what they wanted to do, well, they would know where they want to go. And any degree that you want to get, you can get online. You know, if I get into the construction field and realize that being a civil engineer is more, there's a more market for a civil engineer than for a laborer tossing 2x4s, well, I'm going to do school at night, right? And become a civil engineer.
Yeah, at the most, you just have to pay for the degree.
Most good jobs require college degree for people, no matter how stupid they are. If they have that degree, they can get a job that they want. Sometimes somebody don't have degrees, way better and way smarter, but they don't get the job because they don't have that degree.
But look at how many people who have degrees who can't get a job because their degree that they have is worthless.
No, but Claudio's got a really good point. I was just talking to, I had a couple of friends over last night, and one of them is in college here at the university. And I asked him what he was majoring in, and he told me, and we both kind of laughed. He knew it was pretty ridiculous. And I said, why are you doing that? He's like, oh, because I had to have something. Because the real job I want is a video game designer, but you have to have a college degree. It doesn't matter what the college degree is, you just have to have one. You got a really good point. I mean, having a college degree, you could have a college degree in dissecting ants and get a job, get your dream job. It just to have a degree is the point. It's like if you want to get a job at Walmart, you have to have a high school diploma. I mean, same kind of concept.
You do?
I don't know, but I know that like Wendy's, you do. A couple other places.
That's too bad.
Ready for another call?
Yeah.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Is that me?
It might be. Depends on who it is.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Abe.
Abe Furman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Oh, man. I was just listening to you guys talk about, specialization and, getting a degree and all those things. I didn't get a degree. I got out of high school skiing school. And then I went up to the university to spend some money. My parents wouldn't just give me a free education, so they said if I wanted to go to college, I had to pay for myself. Well, I got up there and spent about 2.5 months up there and realized I was wasting money on something I didn't want to do. So I jumped in the job force, and the interesting thing about that is everyone told me at the time that was the worst thing I could possibly do. You're throwing your life away. You're a smart kid. You have the ability to do more than that. And the irony is that when I didn't have all that crap floating through my head of what, you need to find the highest paying job and you need to become, the best thing. And basically, instead, what I did is I just kind of took jobs as they said that the talents that I had. Luckily, when I was in high school, I had, the thing that I was interested in was, drawing and designing and drafting. And now, fast forward 10, 15 years, whatever it is after I was doing those things, the thing that I desired to do ended up paying. I would say that it now pays me better than any of the college students that I graduated with. And one of the things that happened to me is when I came back from I was in the Middle East for some work, and I came back about 4 years after I graduated from high school, when all of my buddies are graduating from college now, and we all we're sitting around a fire drinking beers, and they're like, oh yeah, just got my degree in chemical engineering and all these things, and I asked them, I said, well, that's totally awesome. So what are you going to do now? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe go get a job.
I don't know.
And literally at that moment, I realized that at that moment for me, the irony was that I didn't go do the whole school thing, and I was 4 years ahead of these guys. True. I'm sure that if they got in the right field, they can surpass me with pay. But at the same time, I love what I do. I'm enjoying it. I'm still learning every single day. And it sounds ridiculous to brag, but I can look at my situation right now, and I can compare it with almost every single person from my high school point. And I am in a really good position. I just went back for my 10-year anniversary, and it was shocking to me. Oh, yeah, I'm doing this. Oh, so-and-so's doing that. I tell them what I'm doing, they're like, you're kidding. And it's like, you guys, it's just amazing to me that how much it's shoveled down our throats that, oh, you got to go to college, you got to get an education. If you don't, you're just going to get a job at Walmart. Like, that is not true. If you're driven, the world literally is your oyster. Knowledge is completely different from schooling, because I love knowledge, and I absorb it every place that I possibly can. And I process it every single day. I tell everybody that my hobby now is to learn about economics and politics. I mean, that's what I do for fun. The rest of the guys are out, playing poker, drinking on the weekends. I literally sit down and read an economics book. Now, I don't have a formal college education, but I'm continuing to learn, and I'm continuing to go forward. And that's what's missing in America. It's not college.
That's why he's so weird.
Mm-hmm. Abe, I'm just curious. You said the world is your oyster. Can you get those at the supermarket? Is that where you get the oysters from?
No, but I'm sure that if you stand, if you wait around long enough, there'll be a food line for them here.
I was going to say, is there a form I can fill out to have somebody requisition me an oyster?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they're going to tax me to death and give all my oysters away. So
this thing with back to the children belong to the state and not the parents. I'm sure all you guys have listened recently on this station. There's maybe it's not playing anymore because I can't think I've heard it for a little bit, but there was this little hit job on vouchers where, the state, basically, the schools, public schools are saying, I'm with so-so, and we cannot allow this to happen. Basically, it was a hit campaign to keep vouchers from going to parents. Yep. And why would they do that? Basically, what they're saying is, for one, because you don't own your kids, and you're not smart enough to have this voucher to do with what you think ought to be done. You're not smart enough to send your kid to this place or that place. We're the state. We know what's best for them. We will use the money that we stole from you and put it to use the way we see fit and teach our children the way we want them to be taught.
Yeah, I haven't seen any or heard any of those voucher commercials, but I did the one that you sent us around the other day by text. I mean, the state owns your children, basically, is kind of what she was saying. And I have 4 kids, and it was just like, are you kidding me? There's no way that the state loves my kids more than I do. There's no way that my state would literally lay down their life so that my children will have a better life than what's possible out there. It's like that. Yeah.
Abe, you've read Brave New World, right?
No, actually, I have not.
Oh, well, very interesting concept in the way in which the children were raised in that society in Brave New World is that the government decided what those children were going to be before they were even born. Basically, genetically altered them so that, maybe the ones that were a little smarter, the alphas, they would get to go and be the ones who would make the decisions for the rest. And on down the line, the ones that are a little less smart than that, they would be the ones that would have the planning jobs, the laboratory jobs, the science, and then you go down and eventually you get down to the lower levels of the people who are basically bred for the manual labor. And it's not enough just to have the breeding you see in this society. Aldous Huxley, he wrote about it beautifully. He describes a way in which the children are from the very moment they're born. They are conditioned. They are spoken to in their ear at night. Of course, it's a pre-recorded message that plays over and over again that tells them what they're going to do with their life and tells them what their station in life is going to be. And the more I remember reading it in public school, in high school, when I was 14, 15 years old, and thinking to myself, this is what's going on around me right now in these schools. And, to the very fact that we were even allowed to read that book now blows my mind, because it made me question what was happening in the classroom. To think that somehow we have this all-knowing government that knows. They don't have to love your children, Abe. All they have to do is know where they want to put your children to work.
Well, they're doing it for the benefit of our children.
They're doing it for the benefit of the society.
All within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state.
Yep.
Mussolini.
It's super.
Mussolini
it's super,
said that?
Yeah.
It's super interesting to me that there's this huge push towards collectivism by many, many, many individuals saying that, hey, it's not you, it's the greater good. Hey, it's not you, it's the greater good. But the irony is the people who are monitoring that are the people who want to take control, first of all. So it is actually about them and not you. The second thing about that is everyone says, oh, there's this utopian idea that, if your children or if all the individuals of society are functioning on how society wants them to function, then everyone's happy. It's like, no, how is everyone missing the big point that if this perfect society has to function where the individual loses all identity of themselves, how is the individual happy? Therefore, how is this great utopia perfect? Because every single individual no longer exists. Therefore, the whole drive for existence is completely gone, and you're going to have mass people just committing suicide because life is so miserable because they don't have individual identity anymore. And to me, it's just so crazy when I hear people talk about, oh yeah, it'd be so good. We'll achieve world peace, and there'll be, eco balance and all this other stuff. And it's like, you guys, you're going to literally wipe humanity off the face of the planet, which I think is probably part of the underlying, idea. And nobody's going to be happy except for maybe the five guys at the top pulling all the puppet strings. I just don't know how people go along with it.
Going back to your education, what I see, you learn to think when you're forced to go to work to pay for study. You start to think for yourself, and you got off of that mode that was from top-down education, and everybody learned that. And when you learn for yourself, you start to think for yourself, you got ahead of the people that was inside that system, that structure, and 4 years later, they didn't know what to do because there was not a structure over them to start to work, and you already was, you're successful now, and without all that education, that unquote education.
I like to think about thinkers of the past and what would they have said about such things. So, Adolf Hitler, he was a thinker.
He's a thinker.
He's a thinker. So, I'm just going to read a little bit of something that Adolf Hitler had on this subject. Because, might as well see where these people are coming from.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hitler said, when an opponent declares, I will not, this is in a speech in 1933, November 6th. When an opponent declares, I will not come over to your side, I calmly say, that's kind of weird, he calmly said, your child belongs to us already. What are you? You will pass on. Your descendants, however, now stand in the new camp. In a short time, they will know nothing else but this new community. On May 1st, 1937, Hitler declared, this new Reich will give its youth to no one, but will itself take youth and give to youth its own education and its own upbringing. So how in the world is anything that these people are advocating, the state's advocating, the public education system is advocating, nothing less than what Adolf Hitler advocated?
It's funny to me because I think that most people that I've talked to about the public school situation, they don't send their kids to the public school because they want them to be brainwashed by the state. They don't send them to the public schools because they want them to be taught a contrary set of values than what they have. They send them to be educated by the state because that's what they think they have to do, or what they can't see any other option for themselves. And I pose the question, well, what if it were turned around just a little bit? What if everybody around you was sending their kids only to Catholic school, and they had to go to chapel every day with a Catholic priest? I know some Catholics that wouldn't have a problem with that. I know a lot of other people who would have a problem with sending their kids to specifically going to chapel every day with a Catholic priest. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I know a lot of people that would.
Yep.
Well, aren't you doing the same thing by sending your kids to a public education?
Absolutely.
Well, Steve, I think you also bring up another interesting thing that you said right there at the beginning is why are people so willing to send their kids out? Aaron mentioned it earlier. If we don't have public schools, then we don't have babysitters for parents have nowhere to send their kids. And the irony for me is that actually is a huge part of why people even talk about public school, because they're so worried. All these parents are so worried about making sure that they have enough, monetary, enough money to basically make sure that they can provide for the families and all of their personal desires, that they don't have time to think about their kids. They have to come up with something else for their kids to do. If the economy wasn't going in the drink, and if the U.S. dollar or whatever currency we were using was actually strong enough that people were not slaving away to the state, they might not even think about things like, oh, where do I got to send my kids? They might actually be able to say, you know what, I actually have time to love my child, or, you know, make sure that I'm doing the best thing for them. And the whole idea of state-sponsored education or anything coming from the state going toward our children wouldn't even be talked about, because we wouldn't even be in a situation where people would be like, oh, I can't wait to get rid of my kids so that I can go back to living my own life, or trying to make it so that I can provide for my child by working 5 jobs in a row that, you know, are whatever I can do to try and, you know, take care of this, you know, child.
Well, we also buy into this idea that somehow you have to have a certain standard of living with children, that you have to make sure that they have their own room and that they have to have the new clothes. Of course, they weren't going to the schools. They wouldn't be as concerned with the new clothes, I suppose. But I mean, if you don't have to live to a certain standard of living, Abe, you wouldn't even necessarily have to have both parents working.
Oh, so you're saying that if we don't have to keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah. You know, the Joneses, I don't know what about them, but man, they always seem to be at least 2 or 3 steps ahead of me.
Yeah, I think the Joneses are a government-sponsored family that gives us the idea so that, you know, hey, you got to live like these people. I mean, they all have perfect lives. They all get government stipends. And anyway, we can go off on that one. But
nice.
Anyway,
Thanks,
I'll hang up and let somebody else talk.
Appreciate the phone call. You betcha. 458-TALK is the number. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Patriot's Lament. Who's this?
Hello?
Hey, who is this?
Token socialist calling from an undisclosed location in Fairbanks.
All right, Mr. Socialist, what's on your mind today?
First, I wanted to say that Plato's ideal state book was The Republic, and Utopia was written by Sir Thomas More.
I'm going to double-check that because I'm pretty sure that I'm quoting Plato's Utopia, but I'll
Sir Thomas More, he lost his head over the matter. He got really carried away.
Mr. Socialist, how you doing?
Fine. How are you doing, Josh?
Pretty good, man. Appreciate you calling in. We're sitting here discussing public schools and stuff like that, or this collective children belong to the state, community, whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like the concepts of left and liberalism and socialism are very much ripped off and abused, and the people who represent themselves as advocates of the left, I fight them as much as I fight the secret libertarian Agenda 22. And so I agree with you. I don't think the state should control kids, and you should be able to educate your kids any way you want.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, because I mean, you start off saying that you're a socialist, which is fine, and I've talked to you, and I understand where you're coming from, and yet you can still see it for what it is. I mean, what is with these people? I mean, I just read some quotes from Adolf Hitler, and he had the same ideals that these people are espousing. And it boggles my mind that people don't see it. Why can't, I mean, they literally can't see through it. It boggles my mind. And not only do they not see through it, they're advocating it. They're defending it. They're propagating it. They're beating us up with it.
Well, I mean, Hitler did have the ultimate state. He was being heralded by our own president as creating a perfect state until we decided we didn't like him anymore.
By the way, the caller was correct. The name of the book that I was referring to by Plato is called The Republic. All right, thank you.
Wow,
that was so mature. Wow, are you a product of the public schools yourself? No, that's it's interesting though. I mean, it goes on when you bing the word utopia, it pulls up Plato's Republic. I mean, obviously, what is being described, that utopian society that so many people think of, is what Plato described in the Republic. And the idea, yeah, I wonder if anything that word republic and that state control has anything to do with the Republican Party. Huh. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. 458-TALK is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
This is Randy.
Randy.
Yes, on the issue of do the parents own the child or who owns the child, I think that it's on a sliding scale. I think the person or the people or the entities that own the child are the combination of the parents and the child. And at the start of conception, I think the parent or the mother owns the child 100%. And then when the child gets to 18 years old, the child owns his own self 100%. And in between there, it's a sliding scale. And this can kind of have to do with the pro-life, pro-choice debate a little bit. You know, when would it be okay, if ever, you know, to have an abortion or something or take a morning after pill? And I feel that in the very early stages, that the mother, owning the child 100%, at least up until the time that the first brain waves appear, that she would have the right to take a morning after pill. Not that I'm advocating it, or it's a sad thing, and from the moment of conception to have to take that choice. But I would think that the state should not intervene at that point anyway, and stop the mother from doing that. And what comes to my mind is that sad incident that happened over in Egypt with that American CBS reporter when she was gang raped in Cairo there. I don't know if she took the morning after pill shortly after that or not, but she should have had that right, I think.
Wow, you covered a lot of ground with that, Randy, and I'm not sure. At what point do I have the right to remove you from my life? I mean, if it's all a sliding scale.
Well,
if human life doesn't really have value intrinsically on its own.
Well, it's a question of ownership. I own myself 100%. You don't own me, nobody owns me. But my mother did own me 100% when I was, a week out from conception or 3 weeks. At some point, when I started getting brain waves, I might have started getting a sense of self, sense of possession, because you can't really possess something unless you have a sense of possession or have the capacity to possess or had the capacity to have a sense of possession.
So then if a person has had a brain injury and no longer has brain waves, who owns that person?
Well, like I said, my last sentence was, or had a sense of possession. So
I would have to disagree with your arbitrary age of 18 decided by the state. I left home shortly after my 17th birthday. My two younger brothers left at 16 and 14. And made their own ways. They're both successful-ish businessmen.
Ish, I like that.
And I do pretty well for myself for the most part. I don't agree with your just because the state says it's 18, it's 18.
Yeah, I never talked about the state determining. It's arbitrary. But if you had decided to pack up and leave at age 6, I think your parents should have stopped you because they had more ownership over you than you had of yourself.
Hitler was pretty good at arbitrarily deciding who should live and who shouldn't.
Yeah, but of course Hitler was wrong because he wasn't an American.
Stalin was better at it.
Wait, Stalin wasn't an American either.
No, we supported him.
Oh, that's right. Thanks for the call, Randy. We're up against the Fox News. 458-TALK is the number. We've got another hour of Patriot's Lament coming up right here on KFAR, Local Talk Radio. Welcome to Patriot's Lament right here on KFAR. It's Local Talk Radio, 660 on your AM dial, but also streaming live around the world at KFAR660.com. Greeting to all of our listeners in various locales that are not here in Fairbanks. You can also find us on your smartphone, if your phone is smart, by way of the free TuneIn radio app.
Well, I have found that smartphones are usually smarter than the people that own them.
That's a fact. I know mine's smarter than me.
That's Josh and Aaron Bennett both sounding off air. They are the folks who have made this show not just possible, but they are the ones who make the show. I'm only the monkey behind the machine here, so to speak. I'm Steve Floyd, the man with the face made for radio. Josh Bennett, Aaron Bennett in the studio. Also today, Claudio Gomez. Here with us. Thanks for joining us today. And all of our lines are on hold. What would you like to do with those? You want me to clear them or go to them?
No, we want to go to them. But first, really quick, we need to destroy Randy's little argument about ownership.
Okay.
Of children. First of all, you don't own your children, parent. You have basically a duty from God to care for your child. He's put them in your possession to care for them. You don't own them. You have a basic unspoken contract with your child. I will care for you. You will do what I say, as long as you live here. Now, there's a lot more to it because hopefully, usually, you love your children. So that plays a large part in it. But you don't actually own them as you would own private property of like your car. You don't own them as in you own your home, because you don't have the right in that quote-unquote ownership of your children to sell your children or put them into slavery or to beat them unmercifully. So
Right.
you don't own your children.
Our buddy Abe made a good point that once they reach a certain point in your unspoken contract, they'll start to renegotiate that contract with you through rebellion and breaking out on their own. And if you try to continually hold them down until they're 30 years old and own them, you're going to see the obvious effects of your non-ownership.
Right. So there's no point in time where all of a sudden you can decide what to do, throw them away. You can't kill them. You can't dispose of them.
There. I think we have another
Or sell
problem
them?
also in today's society, is that now we're having more and more people having a hard time getting them to leave when it is an appropriate time for them to launch. There's a failure to launch. The kids, I don't know, maybe it's a failure of contract. You know, hey, look, I don't feel adequately prepared by you to go out there and actually make my own way. I feel like you need to continue to support me.
Right, but that's kind of a state myth too, that once you reach a certain age, you got to go out and be a productive taxpayer.
Yeah, that's what they want. You get out there, we need more tax. Basically, a parent is a trustee of a gift. That's what it comes down to. Now, what we've been talking about in the first hour is about the state. The state has no ownership right. It has no trustee claim. Jim and Kenai just emailed me something about this, and this is exactly what he said. We have a trustee, basically, relationship with our children. The state has none. They cannot claim that. And to claim that, for these people that want more money to take care of our children in public school because they feel they're the ones that need to, whatever, they're advocating the same things, the exact same things that Adolf Hitler advocated, that Benito Mussolini advocated, that Joseph Stalin advocated, that Karl Marx advocated, that Barack Obama advocated, that George W. Bush advocated. Okay, so you're going to have to get intellectually honest with yourself and decide, do you want to align yourself with Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Benito Mussolini? Mass murderers, one and all. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Can't happen here, Josh. We own guns.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Let's take the calls.
458-DOG is the number. See if any of them are still there. Good morning,
Probably
caller.
not.
Who's this?
This is Cecily.
Cecily, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind today?
Happy birthday to me.
All right. Happy birthday.
Well, the thing is that when you have to go to all the backup of what you know, when you always have to put behind it. This is why I think the way I think is because of all of this history and all this stuff that I read about. I can't have my new thought, my new idea is never considered as as respected as some thought that I don't have a whole list of history to back it up with. And then I wanted just to say a quote from a movie that I thought was so cute. The eagle never lost so much time as when he submitted his knowledge to the crow. And your children will teach you so much more than you know if you give them that respect. They came from the place where all knowledge is, and they're still fresh with it. And here, we're not. Anyway, God bless everybody, and happy birthday to me.
All right. Thanks, Cecily.
That didn't make sense, because first you said something about backing it up with history. You know, your thoughts aren't valid unless you back them up with history, and then you give us a thought from a movie.
No, I think what she was saying was that she believes that the best thoughts are the ones that are instinctual and don't require a lot of thinking or backing up with argument.
No, because I don't believe that, because instinctively we are a very selfish people.
Aren't we supposed to follow our heart, John?
Yeah. No. I mean, if you can't go back and look at what greater minds thought and said, you're going to, history repeats itself. Those that don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. We need to know what Adolf Hitler thought about the children in public school so we can look at what's going on today and point at the people and say, you're a Nazi. You're a communist. Communism, when you call someone a communist now, it's not like that's hardly even a bad thing anymore.
Nazi still has a bad ring to
Yeah,
it. But if you take it and
fascist,
because we are all selfish, and communism really plays into that. It's kind of like being socialist.
And then the other thing about that too, though, is there's nothing new under the sun. So it's pretty hard to come up with
ancient wisdom literature. Nothing new under the sun.
It's pretty hard. Yeah, what was that, Solomon?
Ecclesiastes is just a bunch of collection of.
I mean, we have to be able to look back because none of your thoughts are going to be new.
Whenever we watch a movie, it seems like almost all the kids' movies that Disney or anybody else comes out, they always have the same message: follow your heart. I ask my kids, "Are you supposed to follow your heart?" And they're, no, we don't follow our heart. Why? Because our heart is going to deceive us.
Right.
Our heart is going to be selfish. Our heart is going to tell us to do something that is wrong. We don't follow our heart. We do what we know is right.
Right. Did the Lord say, "Come, let us follow our heart"?
No.
He said, "Let us reason."
And again, you're quoting the Isaiah now.
If we were all going to just follow our instincts, we would never get out of bed.
Oh! Snap. You are correct, sir.
All right, let's do it.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. You still with us?
Hello?
Hey, who is this?
Hi, this is Monica.
Monica, what's on your mind today?
Actually, I just wanted to ask a question, and then I need to get off the line. But I was wondering how important it was, or how important you felt it was to differentiate between the independent homeschool and the state-sponsored homeschool programs.
That's a really good question.
Because it's the same thing. Yeah. And I'm opening up the door of regulation for, a few sports to play or something. But I need to get off the line.
All right. Thanks for the call.
I understand some people take advantage of it, and it helps some people because we can get the curriculum stuff. I don't agree with it. That's my personal belief. I think homeschooling should stay independent from the state. Homeschooling should be what the parent decides they want it to be. Homeschooling needs to stay free and independent from the state. Homeschooling has to be an anarchic experience, as in not chaotic, free from the state.
Is that what anarcho means?
Yes.
Free from the state?
All the word means is free from the state. People are, if you let the state start regulating, get their little finger nitpickers in there, they're going to try to do something with it. Eventually, they're going to try to outlaw it. And it's going to be really easy if you're a state.
Well, it's going to be really easy if you had taken the free lunch. We'll give you all this curriculum. We're just going to tell you what you're going to teach.
Yeah.
Well, and there are certain. It's a gray scale though. For like myself, when we take advantage of the IDEA program, in which we get the funding that includes the things that we can use for the kids' physical education, so it helps to pay for their Taekwondo lessons. We get to choose where they go for the Taekwondo. It pays for their music lessons. So we get to choose what instrument they're going to play and who they'll take the lessons from. It does not pay for the majority of the curriculum that we use in our home, because we use stuff that they don't think is, I think it's a little too religious. So most of our curriculum is not paid for, but we take advantage of what they do allow, and there are a few hoops to jump through, yes. Primarily, it's basically showing progress on the basics like reading, math, science, and I personally think that people need to do what they feel comfortable doing with the school issue, and at some point, and we've talked about it, if the regulations get too much, we're out the door.
Yeah, you have to be.
And we're ready to walk away, and we're ready to pay for it all out of our pocket if we have to. But you know
Right,
what?
but at that point,
if
if
you've got
the-
somebody offering free lunch on the corner, Aaron, I'm going to go see.
Right, but if that's, I don't really think that's very legitimate, though, Steve. You're going to say that I'm going to take all I can until they start to regulate it to the point that I don't like it. At that point, can't they really decide what they're going to regulate it to because you've already taken it? Isn't that the whole crux of socialistic government in the first place?
I get your point, but I think, like, I pay my property tax, and big part of my property tax goes to fund schools, and I'm not using that because I have my kids on a private school. But I'm not against, like Steve, take advantage of that money. I think he just take some of his money back from the property tax.
Thanks, Claudio. I appreciate that point of view. But you know what? I
but
also appreciate
that's-
Josh's point of view of saying, look, I'm not going to have anything to do
My
with it.
taxes go to kill brown people, but I don't feel the need that I should take advantage of that and go out and shoot someone
Right.
in the head.
I don't think that's legitimate at all, Claudio, to say that, it's okay to sign up for this program and excuse off any of it because I paid taxes. I mean, there's lots of people that don't pay taxes that are receiving your taxes. Your taxes also go to kill babies, so it's okay to take a government handout, even though because you're getting some of that money back that didn't go to kill babies. I mean, that.
The bottom line with the homeschooling part, which was the original question, I think it's just that we have to be vigilant and aware that it is a threat to the state.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think it's, right now, I think homeschooling is the number one threat to the state.
Yeah, it's scaring the
Yeah.
the absolute pants off.
Yeah.
Right.
Even-
So I'm going to have to side with Josh and say that if the government's offering curriculums, it's obviously nothing's. They don't give a free lunch.
There are a lot of-
there are hooks in the bait, and there absolutely are.
There is a today. I encourage everyone to homeschool. I mean, it's so easy now. It really is, and it takes minimal effort. You don't have to have this regulated. Okay, part of homeschooling is to free yourself from doing the state structure. You don't have to have this. We start at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 8:30, we do this. From 8:30 to 9, we do this. If that's the way that you need to do it, that's fine. But it's part of being free to educate your child the way you want to. And there's so many free things out there on the internet, which is so awesome. It's really easy to do. And I still contend that even if you just took your kid out of the state public school and didn't teach them anything as far as quote-unquote education, just teach them how to read, which nowadays most kids, well, I don't know. A lot of kids know how to read before they go to school. And that's just a fact. And it's not hard to teach a kid how to read. If you simply do that, get them out of public school. If that's the only thing you show them and help them love to read, what I'm saying is you're better off having a nitwit kid as far as the public education system is concerned than to send them to that brainwashing atmosphere. Teach them how to start a business. Teach them how to live their life. Teach them how to not want to steal from their neighbor.
Can I roll back here for a couple of minutes here? It's something that you said, Josh. It's just it's bugging me because you talk about not wanting to take any of your tax money back, basically, because you could get some of your tax money back by taking the money from the IDEA program or any of the other.
No, I'm not saying I didn't. I didn't
do you
say that? I'm saying that.
Would you then advocate not paying any taxes at all? I mean, you don't like the fact that it's
be-
going to pay for abortion. You don't like the fact that it's going to pay for war. Would you advocate for not paying taxes? Is that what you're saying?
I also advocate not getting shot in the head by the state.
Oh, okay.
And right at the moment, maybe that's a cop out. Right at the moment, I don't want to be shot.
So wait a second.
And
You're telling me that you have a kind of a gray scale for yourself on how far you're going to cooperate?
We don't have debtor's prison in America, but we do if it's against the state.
I'm more worried about my children getting shot in the head because they don't stop at shooting you in the head. They like to shoot their kids in the head too. I mean, what do we look at? We're slaves in a war. And
They first throw CS gas on them.
Yeah, that's true. Then they light it up.
No, that's only if you're some kind of a wacko that believes in homeschooling your children. Come on. Or if you have a bunch of guns in your house.
I get this argument all the time, Steve. I said, I talk about what taxes go to fund, and people, do you pay your taxes? And I say yes, and then they try and throw it back in my face. But the stark truth is the state has the monopoly on force. And if you don't pay your taxes, what happens? They come to take you to jail. If you resist going to jail, what happens?
They shoot you in the head.
You die.
Yeah.
Well,
then wouldn't you advocate for taking as much of your tax money back as possible?
No, for the reasons that we just stated.
It
Because they
depends on
don't
what
give
it is.
you, they take it from you, and then when they give it back, what happens? There's a string attached.
Do you take exemptions, or do you pay the full amount that they tell you to pay?
That's something totally different. People will get a tax refund and think that the state actually gave them money. But all they're doing is giving them back what they overpaid. They're not giving you anything. It's money that they took from you. They're not giving you anything. You just gave them an interest-free loan that they collected interest on until they give it back at the end of the year, and you get this tax refund and go spend it like it wasn't even your money. Like, I got this free money. People go crazy when they get their tax refunds, and they're not even thinking about the fact it's their own savings that they let the state have and collect interest on. It's idiocracy.
What's happened? People can't really manage their own finance, so they overpay. They put one extra person in his family and pay for that, and then at the end of the year he get back, so he don't have a chance to. I don't have money to pay my tax.
Right. I know a lot of people that will claim zero just so they can get that big refund because that's their best method of saving money. Let the state do it for them. I'm totally not kidding. I know a lot of people that do that.
Let's take some calls, Steve.
458 Talk is a number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Good morning, this is Al.
Al, what's on your mind?
A couple things. I think most people, on generally speaking, don't understand what the education system's for.
That's a good point.
The education system for early child, all the way up to high school, or right up to high school, is supposed to be there to teach principles on how to learn. Because we never really, for the most part, people never really stop learning or educate themselves in whatever they choose to pursue. So, from grades kindergarten to 7th grade, they should be teaching principles on how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get to high school. Is there any difference between a GED and a high school diploma anymore?
I don't think so.
I don't think so neither. And so once you get to that high school stage, the smarter people should just opt out of the high school education and just go past their GED and do like Abe did and start pursuing, more education through the university systems or through the workforce systems.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. And the problem right now that I see with when you're saying the early years when a child, like the kindergarten, let's say kindergarten to 3rd grade or 4th grade or whatever, they should be encouraging them to learn, but they don't anymore. I don't know how long back that's been, but they don't. They tell the kid, shut up and listen to me. I mean, I have 4 boys, and I remember being a boy. The last thing I wanted to do was sit in there in 1st grade and listen to my teacher tell me anything, because I was looking out the window wondering, what is that? I want to go check that out. I mean, the school now deletes the innovation that a little kid has to learn on his own, because how does a kid learn? He learns by feeling, looking, touching, and moving, and talking, and questioning, and that's not allowed in the public school. You're told, here's what you're going to learn. Now shut up and learn it.
Well, because they're getting into that cookie-cutter mentality.
Yeah.
But
they're a failure. This public school is an absolute failure.
It's complete failure because it's bureaucracy and it's redistribution of wealth is all it is. It boils right back down to it again.
Well, doesn't it start from a false premise, that idea that somehow we have a duty to send our children to be educated by somebody else? I mean, you go back to the very start of public education, and it began with this premise that somehow I have a right to go and grab somebody else's children away from them and teach them what I want them to learn. That's how the laws got passed.
Well, I can't fix that problem. I just can educate people that, you don't have to go through homeschooling or what you have to do, what society requires, either through private industry or through the university systems is, your GED or your high school diploma. It's a piece of paper saying that, you have some sort of ability to learn or be disciplined.
Well, so much of people's money's stolen with the excuse that it's going towards education. I wonder if that plays a big factor in people sending their kids to public school to get something out of their investment.
I think even a GED is harder because you actually have to take a test and pass this thing. Where diplomas, we see that a high school diploma means that you were there. Doesn't necessarily mean that you learned a darn thing.
Yeah. Well, either way, GED seems relatively simple to pass, and it doesn't take you 4 years to learn how to pass a GED.
That's true. Get a head start. Get your GED.
That's what I'm advocating. Is you can get a head start, and those who choose to learn, and those who don't, fall behind the wayside.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And so, education anymore is just a huge industry in itself.
Yes, the money-making industry.
And that's all it is anymore.
And it's a monopoly industry because you don't really have a free choice on it.
Well, your choice is
to
opt out of it and go past your GED and continue on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Al.
Good to hear from you, Al. Thanks.
All right. We got about 30 seconds here before the news. You want to take another call in that 30 seconds?
Try.
458-TALK is a number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hello. How we doing today?
Good. Who is this?
This is Mark.
Mark, what's on your mind?
Well, I've been listening to you guys chat. The world view espoused in education really excelled our country. And then you had all the noisy disbelief camps influence the schools. And basically you can see from the curricula its intent for the dismantling of this nation. And the freedoms are going to go with it, which we're seeing. It's in tandem.
All right, Mark, I think we might have to take apart your call a little bit. Hang on the line. We'll come back to you after the news. Welcome back to Patriots Lament right here on KFAR. Who is that? Look behind you, Josh. Coming in the studio right now, we've got another troublemaker joining us here. This is Patriots Lament. I'm Steve Floyd, the man with the face made for radio and the monkey behind the machine. In the studio, of course, as always, we've got Josh Bennett from Bighorn Enterprises. We've got Aaron Bennett from the Once and Future Far North Tactical. We've also got Claudio Gomez, formerly of the French Foreign Legion. And we also have Matt Want, formerly of the Borough and General, what are you? Would you consider yourself a statist or just a general troublemaker today?
Muckraker.
Muckraker. I like
Muckraker.
All right. Welcome you all to the studio here. We still have some lines on hold, but right before the break, did you want to address that call from Mark?
Is he still there?
I don't think so. It looks like he hung up on us there. So
yeah, I can't remember everything. What
he was saying that we got where we are and as our country because of our public education system.
Because of the curriculum change is what he said.
Well, he basically credited public education for the excellence that we had in terms of our innovation and our advancement. I'm assuming he's thinking about things like the space program and the other government-funded advancements we've had in weaponry and general science to kill people with. I mean, that might be what he was thinking of in terms of our advancement as a country.
The Industrial Revolution happened because of our public education system?
I mean, if you think about it in terms of the timeline, no, that's not possible because the Industrial Revolution occurred before there was mandatory public education.
Yeah, I would say that our public education system, we have seen a continual downturn since.
But he blamed what's going on in our country right now on the people who have infiltrated our public education system with this new curriculum that, I guess, teaches people to question their beliefs.
The curriculum is definitely a problem, but I think the biggest problem is not the curriculum, is the training for the kid to sit down from whatever they start all the way to the end and not be a kid. They have to be disciplined and not do what kids do, that's play and learn when they are playing and form their brain the correct way.
Well, they wouldn't be very good cubicle workers if they didn't learn how to sit.
Yeah, we're talking about the break, how they want to have, education earlier and earlier and earlier. Basically, just start them at 2. Send them to school at 2.
What we ought to do is get them right at birth and put them in dormitories and have them, maybe play some education for them while they sleep. Wait. That's what I was talking about in Brave New World at the beginning of the last hour.
I think with
the ultimate statism.
For little boys especially, if you want them to learn something, give them a bucket and a little shovel, point to a sand pile and say, go.
But then they don't have educational toys.
Yeah, they do. They learn how to be excavators. Shovel in a bucket. They learn how to be builders. The point is to expand their mind, not to be in a structured environment where they're told exactly how they have to be and what they have to be, because everyone has to be the exact same way while you're in this class.
Back to taking all you can get from the state just because you can get all you can get from the state. The permanent fund dividend, I kind of view that as the same thing. I've been in Alaska for, I think I was counting it up, for 14 years. And I've gotten 2 dividends since I've been here, and the state filed for both those dividends for me on my behalf because they
wanted to take it?
Well, I didn't pay any tickets that I'd gotten for about, I don't know, how long did I say I've been here? And they decided they were going to pay them for me by filing for the dividend. Because I don't want anything to do with the state or...
I didn't pay for a ticket once and they threw me in jail.
Well, Josh, we live in Alaska where money flows like water. So the only reason you go to jail for getting tickets in every state but Alaska is because they don't have a recourse to collect their revenue, because tickets are a form of how they collect revenue. So in Alaska, they're able to have a recourse, and the recourse is obviously your permanent fund dividend, because it's your oil and it's your money. That's right. They'll file for you, as I found out. So I have filed for the permanent fund dividend a couple of times. Well, I didn't exactly file, but it was filed for me.
The IRS will do that for you, too. If you don't file, they'll file for you.
But I thought the dividend was our money. Isn't that our oil money?
It's your money.
Matt is just hanging in the background because I know he's
staring us down,
dying to say something about how hypocritical it is to take something from the state when you claim to be an anti-state person. How would you possibly take anything from the state?
I thought he was going to come in here and argue for his public school system.
What's that?
Well, step up to a microphone, man. Come on.
Step up to the
mic. I was more enamored with the idea that you keep talking about this change in curriculum, and I mean specifically, what are schools teaching that is brainwashing them? I mean, is it the mathematics? Is it the English courses? Is it and when your kids get done at public school, what is preventing any individual from either expanding on that or overseeing? And I heard the comment earlier that we're taking these kids from their parents and forcing them to go to public school, but we're not. I mean, there is no...
The children, usually the parents choose happily to send them.
Well, right, but I mean, you look at the dropout rate and the incompletion rate of public education, and I'm having a hard time seeing where all of these parents are being forced to make their kids attend public school.
Without addressing the issue of being forced to attend public school, I can address the issue of brainwashing directly, because I was a substitute teacher here in the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District before I got fired for daring to question the methods of the teaching that I was being required to do. I was brought in to a particular classroom as an algebra teacher. I was there to teach algebra, and yet my teaching plan for the day included, and I kid you not, time to address and have a public discussion on basically the acceptability of homosexuality as a lifestyle.
What does that have to do with algebra class?
That was when I was at. That's what I asked. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, they told you
that was part of my curriculum.
Oh.
That I, as a teacher, was required to spend time in the discussion during math class.
What year was this?
This was 2001.
Wow. Yeah, see, I I mean,
has it changed since then? Have they removed that part of the curriculum?
Never had that discussion in any of the classes my son attends, or any of the other
as far
my
as you
nieces
know,
and nephews and
as
everything
far
else.
as you know. When's the last time you went and you sat in on a math class?
I go.
You just trust that they do what you think they're doing?
No, but I have ongoing conversations with and an interaction with the school that my son attends.
I got fired for daring to question whether or not that should be part of the curriculum. Matt, do you understand that?
Well, that's an unfortunate thing.
That is unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
And it's unfortunate that it's right here in the Fairbanks North Scarborough School District. So this is not some theoretical, they're not teaching math. They're not teaching math.
Well,
I must have missed that chapter in my son's.
The gay couple.
I must have missed that chapter in my son's pre-calculus
If one
class.
homosexual man marries another homosexual man, how many children can they have?
14?
As many as the state wants to give them from somebody else, because the children don't belong to the parents. Simple math.
They belong to the state.
Once again, I don't think the main problem is the curriculum, is the structure that the kid is being trained to enact in an unnatural way and be basically a good slave.
How
Be a good
about
robot.
spend 12 years to come out dumber than you went in?
No, they don't come out dumber than they went in. I mean, all of the kids that graduate have excellent grades on math and reading, right? They're all you can look at all of the recent graduates over there at McDonald's, and you can tell how good they are at math, because they don't have to use the computers even to tell them.
How in the world can you come in here and defend public schools? I mean, how
Mission accomplished.
Anyone in their right mind. Anyone in their right mind. I mean, you're a smart guy, and you don't have to be smart to see the public education system is an indoctrination system. They have an agenda. And to close your eyes to that and say, my kid learned pre-calculus. Who gives a crap what your kid learned about pre-calculus?
It's not happening in my school. My kids
are getting a
good education.
When we just talked about, were you not listening to the parts where we were talking about Hitler and Mussolini and all those guys?
The bottom
you're
line
gonna
is
close your
public
eyes and say,
schools.
no, that doesn't really happen.
The public school's convenient.
They indoctrinate you to comply. That's what it's all about. Comply. Do what you're told.
You get
Shut
a
up and sit
state-paid
down.
babysitter for X amount of time. And that is so convenient.
Well, that's why the parents go for it.
Well, sure. Why would you give that up? It's freedom.
You don't have to take care of your kids.
Well, your whole herd gets to go away.
Then you get to get on with your life and do things that are important.
Like watch Oprah and eat food.
Getting on Facebook and talk about how
public school systems suck. Let's take them.
458 Dog is the number. Good morning, caller. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Well, who are you?
This is Roger.
Roger, what's on your mind?
Well, I called in when Carl called in. I've been waiting here this whole time. I got to tell you, I want to make a law that says you have to take a call within a certain amount of time.
You want to make a law that you have to take a call within a certain... Well, that's an excellent idea. Why don't you go ahead and take that over to the borough and see how far it gets you?
Yeah, I don't even live in the borough because I hate them so much. But what I wanted to say in rebuttal to Carl's argument is that you never, at any point, own your children. I can't go take my kids and loan them out to people in exchange for money, in exchange for their labor. Why can't I do that? It's because those kids do not have the mental ability to make the decision whether.
Yeah. We got a problem with your connection, Roger. You're cutting in and out on us. And you're on a mobile phone today?
I'm on a satellite phone.
Oh, maybe that's the satellite. We're catching about every third word. So unfortunately, your point I think is getting lost right now. Maybe you can.
I heard him saying the.
Yeah.
Carl didn't call in today.
It was Randy.
Randy.
No, actually, I think he was referring to the token socialist who identified him. Either way, whoever it was, his point being.
Oh, that's.
I think Roger's point is that the kids never actually belong to the parents, even. If they did, then you'd be able to sell them like any other commodity, or like say if you had a rabbit, you can sell your rabbit
earlier. Exactly.
You know, it's the same thing. It's like, you think that oil money is yours. Can you sell your portion of the dividend? Think about it. If I could sell my portion of the dividend to Matt over here, and Matt could collect 2 dividends every year, Matt, would you be in favor of that?
You can do that. You can sign your dividend over. Bars do it all the time.
Bars do it, okay, but you can't actually. The state still has to deliver it to you, and then you have to sign it over.
You can fill out paperwork even at the car dealerships. You can prepay it. You can pre-assign your.
I'm not sure people can hear you on the mic. On the mic there, Matt. You're gonna have to step up.
Well, Matt's right. You can sign your dividend over preemptively. You can, like he said, give it to a car dealership.
But nothing definite.
You can give it to you can give it to anyone. There's paperwork that you just.
But you have to do it every year. Your share does not. From that point on,
it's an annual thing, right?
Right, exactly. Each and every time.
And it's not like you can will it either. So like when you die, it's not perpetual. Right. You have to apply for it every year.
We are digressing into sewer.
All right.
He asked me a question. I didn't bring it up.
You want to go to another call?
Yeah.
458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Good morning.
Hey, who is this?
This is Mark. I guess we got disconnected on the other side of the public message there. I didn't want to regress, but I wanted to follow up because y'all had some questions. The design of the education system in the country was first promoted privately and was excellent. It was seen as a very lucrative potential by academics with a different worldview. It was jump-started by the Satan Deluder Act to know what your enemy's up to. As time progressed, and the benefits of this allowed the country to flourish, this insidious element began to capitalize on it. Now, the chief learners and academics in different fields of science and disciplines, they have a way of, with their false teachings, to get you to a fork in the road where you're going to agree with them or not agree with them, like the algebra class, for instance. And then you're quickly identified and ousted out. The media, government, and the schools are all intent of being controlled by the spirit, or rather remote controllers, who are undermining the nation's parents. And this translates all into dollars for them and absolute control. Now, June 24th, 1964 and June 24, 62, and 64 is when they took out prayer and Bible reading out of the schools. Now, some thought that wasn't a big deal, but as we're going to find out very, very shortly, it made all the difference. They've taken the edge away from our country in competition, and people think that this is all their own doing, that they can do what they want and still prosper, and it's not that way. And so with the rejection of the Supreme Creator and giving him honor, it's not like everybody was rolling in the school floors, being filled with the Holy Spirit and filled with joy, clapping and singing, but it was a measuring stick by which these other things taught could have some measure. Well, see, the measuring stick's been taken away, and so in that vacuum, that void, you're going to have the government as God. And they're very serious, and with death, there's always debt collectors. So people should be ready because it's going to be coming at lightning speed.
Well, I don't.
Mark, thanks for the call.
The Bible doesn't belong in the public school.
Well, I don't think the public school belongs in the public school.
Right.
Mark, I think I don't think the public schools ever began on a private scale.
That's why they're public.
The public school. The whole issue was that they were instituted by law to go out and grab those kids who were not being privately educated.
That's why it's called public.
Right, and from the very beginning, all you have to do is just Google or Bing it, and you'll get a whole rundown on the history of where public school came from.
And to see, it all went downhill when we took the Bible out, or we couldn't pray, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, what do you think was going to happen? The only reason they allowed Bible or prayer or whatever in the first place when they started was so Christians would send their kids.
Well, and
say, well, look, it's not so bad.
It wasn't even so that the Christians would send their kids. It was the Christians trying to force it on the on the kids who weren't in it.
Yeah.
And you can imagine if somebody from Bible Baptist came over to your house, Matt, and said, your kids are coming with us to Sunday school. What about you, Josh? I mean, and pick your church. It doesn't have to be Bible Baptist. It could be maybe the Catholic Church. They want to come and pick your kids up and take them to Sunday school.
I'd have to say, come and take them.
Yeah, as in like no?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, why would we do that with any other school? I mean, that's basically what it began with. It began as forced religious education.
Because it's a sacred cow. Because we do it for the children.
For the children. All right, 458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Hi, Teresa.
Teresa, what's on your mind today?
Well,
you know this lady?
I've missed part of your conversation, so I don't know if you've already talked about, when you were on the topic of homeschooling, the German family that has sought asylum in the United States.
I have not talked about them. No, go ahead.
Well, in Germany, homeschooling is illegal, and they can put you in prison. They can take your children away if you try to homeschool your children. And a German family came to the United States to get away from that and to be able to homeschool their children. They sought asylum here, and now our government is trying to send them back, deport them back to Germany, where they could possibly go to prison and or lose their children. And this is our government doing this.
It's not ours. It ain't mine.
Our government
No.
possibly sending them back to this state.
I'm not taking that. It's not my government. A bunch of criminals want to send them back. Do you know who and what year homeschooling was criminalized in Germany?
Well,
Adolf Hitler, 1938.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this 1918? Let's see.
I think it was 38. I believe it was 1934 or 38. I think Hitler made homeschooling
It
criminal.
said even before, I'm reading an article here, even before the Nazis took power, they had a prohibition on homeschooling.
We actually, our public school model came from Germany before Hitler. I mean, it's something that
it was.
Even the very term kindergarten, where does that come from? A garden of children. Who takes care of the garden? Who's going to go out and take care of those lovely little flowers, the little kinder?
And reap.
No, you reap what you sow, right? Teresa, thanks so much for the phone call.
Well, I have one more comment.
No, you didn't.
I'll hang up.
No, I'm joking.
You can comment on it or not, but I believe that statism is a result of basically godlessness in a society. So it's one or the other. Either people are following God and God is their king, or they're going to start worshiping the state and the state becomes their God. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. 458 Talk is the number. Good morning, caller. Who's this?
Good morning, it's Al again.
Al again. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? I think people were talking about public schools and home education, and they all have agendas. It doesn't matter who teaches what. There's an agenda behind it. What's not being taught is how to teach students to not believe everything they read or see, but prove it themselves. There's nothing. My kids go to public schools, and they come home, and we talk about what they've been taught. And if I don't agree with it, I say, why would you believe that? And start educating them how to research what they've learned to prove that it's true or not. Even at a religious, how many religions are in the world? Are they all correct? You have to educate yourself and prove which ones you believe are right. Everything on the internet's not true. Everything in school's not true.
Al, aren't you going to... it just seems to me like you are spending more time than you would have to. Instead of spending all that time debriefing your kids and unlearning what they learned at school, wouldn't it be more time efficient for you just simply to educate them at school? Instead of having someone else go in there and teach them something that you disagree with and then have to go back and uneducate them and re-educate them.
But that boils back down to homeschooling. Do I think all homeschooling curriculum and agendas and what's being taught is true?
No, I'm sure it's not.
And so that's, I'm back to my point is
that doesn't
you have
mean...
to educate you have to educate society or your children to be able to go research something and find out if something's factual or not.
Because some that's not a logical point. Because some homeschools are bad, then you throw all homeschool out. Because on the flip side, all
you have
public
to figure
school,
out which ones are right.
All public school is wrong.
That's a very strong statement, Josh. I mean, if somebody like Al wants to send his kids to the public school, and he wants to spend the time having someone else educate them, and then he wants to spend the time going there and undoing what they did and then redoing on his own. If he wants to do that, you know what? More power to him.
Well, there's some education in public schools that is good. You can't teach math currently that is, that's not true.
You can't?
No.
Really? Look at how many times the curriculum on math alone has changed. Because what they were teaching just a couple of years ago, this so-called new math, actually is incorrect and has been proven to be incorrect, and now they have changed the curriculum.
Who's to say that all children must learn this math? It's a waste of time for most people. I mean, if you are going into a field that requires this math, go learn it. Why force some kid to learn it that's never going to use it?
And what math would they be learning that they won't use?
That's a good question. Why did I take calculus?
They taught you calculus at high school?
They did. I went through an AP calculus course. So
that was an option to you, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So
why? But why? Why was it even an option? Why did they teach it to me?
Somebody was wanting to learn it. Obviously, you did.
Did I?
You chose to participate in it. You made a conscious choice to sign up for calculus.
Right, but public school, for the most part, is cookie cutter. Everyone shall learn this, this, and this. Why?
I can tell you that even though
with the industry itself. So once you leave that system, private industry, has a minimal requirement.
Some, yeah, there are some. I mean,
the majority.
Sure.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, Al, I mean, how many of the people that you know that come out of high school can even do simple math anymore? Look at what goes on over there at McDonald's.
I'm not disagreeing that
the computers go down at McDonald's. McDonald's stops operating.
But why is it bad? Is it falls back on parenting?
That's a cop-out. Then it's a cop-out to say, well, it's because of the parents. That's bullcrap.
I mean, that's what home education's about.
The public school says that we are here to educate your children, and if it's not for us, your children won't be educated. Then don't blame the parents because the child doesn't get educated. Because the public school takes 73% of all the wealth this United States makes and says, you need us to educate your children. And then when they fail, they say, well, it's the parents' fault. Bullcrap. You're taking 73% of all the wealth of this nation because you're saying that you are the ultimate arbitrator of education. You will produce an educated child. When you fail, it's your fault. It's the education system's fault because they're taking that responsibility. They can't turn around and say, well, because the parent wasn't involved in this or that. No. You're saying you're the ultimate arbitrator in education. I shouldn't have to have anything to do with it. I should be able to just sleep 24 hours a day. As long as my kid goes to that public school, he should be educated, no matter what. And that's not happening. Epic failure. If you look at it in the market system, they spend so much money for every year less results. In the private market, when things like that happen, they go out of business.
And right now, they're actually more and more of the students entering into college. Even people who are choosing to go on to college have to do remedial math.
So I think
remedial.
It's a cop out and a lie when the public school says, well, it's the parents' fault if we had parent involvement. No, you're saying you're the public education system. You can educate my child. I shouldn't have to worry about it.
Well, that's a very good point. I'll concede to that.
Al, thank you very much for the phone call. You know what? And the whole point of all of this discussion is to start you, the listener, thinking. We don't ask you to call in and agree. We don't ask you to come away from our discussion today agreeing with us.
Yeah, that's not even fun.
We want you to think about it and do your own research. Action point for today?
To take your kids out of school.
That's a pretty big action point. All right.
Start big.
All right, real quick, contact information.
PatriotsLament.blogspot.com. patriotslament@gmail.com, and YouTube is Radio Free Fairbanks.
All right, we will see you next week right here on KFAR. Health Talk is next.